Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. Today is the very first video of my road to 350 kilos, a deadlift specific series, which is a sort of a little extra on my normal training series, which is called Training for Valhalla. If you want to see it, go to my playlist, click on Training for Valhalla and you see all my newest training videos. But this series is all about focusing on building up my deadlift and getting what I know I'm capable of lifting. I'm a big guy, right? And big guys lift big weights. And for me, that's 350 kilos. Now, the best I've ever done is 240. I don't fulfill my potential on deadlift, mostly because of injuries, and I don't know, it just, things aren't right. So what I've decided to do, and this is part of what I'm sharing in this series, is I'm going back to the very basics. I'm stripping everything down, going back to the beginning, not even focusing on weight to start off with, but I'm going to be correcting my style, I'm going to be tweaking it, I'm going to be working out what works for me. And as I go along this journey of learning about my body, learning about what I can do to get the most out of my deadlift, changing my workout techniques and the routines and stuff, I'm going to be sharing everything with you. And that is not just a successful list, but all the failures and all the stuff that I would normally regard as boring and nitty gritty. I'm going to be sharing every little detail with you, from diet and nutrition to flexibility training to conditioning, everything that I can, and even equipment as well that I use or I buy to help improve my deadlift. I'm going to be sharing every detail with you, and the hope is obviously that you'll find it useful if you're new to weightlifting, to help you develop your own deadlift, and also hopefully you'll just find it entertaining as well. So what I'll try and do is I'm going to try and do the videos in little bite-sized chunks, so they might last about 10 minutes at a time, maybe a little longer, but I'm going to try and keep the length down to as little as possible so you can just literally pick and choose the videos that you want to watch. Today's first video is going to show you just a little bit of everything really, and then over time I'm going to expand on it, doing specific videos focusing on, for example, my stretching. I'll do videos on every single stretch that I do, teaching you why you do it, how to get the most out of it and everything like that. But for today, the stretching part of this video is only going to be just a little sample. The next video will be another little sample of what I do, but showing you the different stretches. Over time, as you watch more and more videos, hopefully you'll learn, you won't be overwhelmed by being hit by an hour-long video, but instead you'll just get a little snippet which you can start introducing into your own training and hopefully will benefit from in the same way that I'm benefiting from it also. I think I've spoken enough there. Hopefully you're still with me and watching the video and you haven't been bored away by my rattling on, so to speak. So I'm going to shut up and we're going to kind of get on with things. But just before we start, I'm going to give a little structure of what the video is going to be. So at the very beginning of the video, if you want to skip it, that's fine. I'm going to be showing you just a handful of the stretches that I do. At the moment, I'm stretching for 40 minutes a day, so that alone would make a 40-minute video. So as I said, I'm just going to show you a couple of little parts of the stretches that I do that I feel are important to help increase the flexibility in your back, your knees, all these sort of areas, right? And then from there, I'm just going to be really kind of doing a talk through video on my deadlift technique and how I am starting to redevelop it, how I'm going to tweak it, and the kind of processes I go through to work out what I need to do and everything along those lines, right? So anyway, as I say, time to shut up. Here's some training footage. So let's start with our bread and butter exercise for stretching. This is ultimately like touching the toes but sat down. The advantage of being sat down, as you can see there, you can gradually increase the width of the legs, or the splitting of the legs, which throws the stretch into slightly different angles. When the feet are together, the stretch tends to focus mostly on your lower back, whereas as you get wider, it throws it more into the adductor muscles of the back of the leg, well, down the side of the leg, and also the hamstrings. Ultimately you end up in a splits position, and this is you ultimately try and go as far wide as you can. Now the important part of this stretch is you go down each leg and also then down the center. Again, it's just about changing angles and throwing the focus of the stretch into different parts of the body. Take your time with this one, it's an important one. This next one is perhaps one of the most simplest of the stretches. It's for your hamstrings. Find something roughly knee height, put your leg up, keep it as straight as
as you can and try and touch your toes. This will just this is just an easy way to just try and loosen off those hamstrings, whereas what we see now again is one of the simplest ways of stretching the quads. Get the back of your leg, hold it with your hand towards your butt, and I always find that the way to intensify it is, as you can see here, is to lean forwards, so make sure you've got something to grab hold of.
Now 53 minutes later, as I say, I'm now ready to train. I'm a little sweaty, a little hot, but that's good. That means we're warmed up. So I've got the bar in front of me. I'm going to load it up with just a nice, light, easy weight, maybe 50 kilos, something like that, using bumper plates, because of course bumper plates, even though I'll be putting on a 10 and a 5, even though normally they would be quite small plates, bumper plates are full size regardless of whatever weight they are. Okay, so I'm going to put them on so we're at the right height, and I'm going to start off by talking you through the processes that I'm going through to sort of create a new technique, a new style. I'm actually going to try sumo deadlift, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll put a few sets of just practicing around with that. That'll probably be the end of the video, but I'll be back with another video very soon, as I say, expanding the series. So that's what's about to come up. Okay guys, so the thing about sumo deadlift is it's far, far more technical than conventional deadlift. That is to say, when you are doing normal deadlift, it's possible, if you get something wrong, to amend the issue by simply muscling it up. So you're putting it from here, you go, and you get it a little wrong, go a little out of the groove, and you go, whoa, you get the shakes. Whenever you see someone get the shakes on conventional deadlift, it's because there is a little bit wrong with their technique, and or it's too heavy, a bit of both, okay? But because of the nature of conventional deadlift, they're able to simply power through their errors and their mistakes. Sumo deadlift, there is no room for error. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong and you fail. It is as simple as that. Sumo deadlift is unforgiving. The advantage obviously is that, yes, okay, you don't have to move the weight quite as far, the range of movement is a little bit less, but really there is no advantage to doing conventional sumo. It's simply what works for you. The thing about deadlift is we are all different shapes, sizes, different mentalities, different strengths, and that reflects on the way that we deadlift. The shape of your skeleton is your primary dictator of what style and technique you have to use, followed then by your mobility, your ability to move quickly, whether you've got speed or whether you simply power and use muscle. There's a lot of considerations when it comes to what style of deadlift you use. Traditionally, I use conventional. I am a conventional deadlifter. I've always been more powerful than conventional, but I've also always injured myself, and it's always been an awkward lift. I've never liked it from day one. Looking at my skeleton and listening to training videos and instructional videos done by probably the best powerlifter of all time, Ed Cohen. I will put some of his videos in the description of the odd video here and there I find it appropriate. In fact, I'll put one in this video, so go check it out. He's a wonderful lifter and a wonderful teacher of how to, powerlift essentially. But when it comes by analysing, as I say, my shape, by listening to the teachings of Ed Cohen and other powerlifters as well, I come up with the idea that I have to do sumo. Why? My legs, in comparison to my upper body, are relatively short, but my thighs are quite long. I've got little shins. What that means is when I bend down with my legs close together in a conventional style, okay, my knees go out. Regardless of if I put them sideways or not, my knees go forwards, and that makes the bar kind of have to go like this. I have to kind of swing it forwards to get past my knees. It's always been the problem, and I'm sick of it, because obviously that's when I tend to throw my hip out. So instead, by me going that little bit wider, okay, ultimately all the way up to here, the sticky outness of my legs, the shape of my legs is no longer really an issue. Now, regards how far do I put my legs out? Well, that's something that we need to determine over this series. And this series is going to be lasting years, by the way. But to start off with, again, thinking like it, I've analysed it, and I actually have a very similar frame to Ed Cohen. Ed Cohen had a very big upper body like me. I've got a massive upper body, and relatively, or proportionally at least, shorter legs. He again has quite narrow hips, even though I got a little bit of belly. My skeletal structure of my hips are actually quite small. And so, believe it or not, I had 30-inch waist not that long ago. So, you know, what I'm saying is, because of my skeleton, because of my framework, I have to work with that. And because one of my main strengths is, yes, I've got powerful legs, but one of my main strengths is my upper back. It's about, really, it makes sense to try and use it. And so, instead of going initially, we might have to go this way. Who knows? I might find it more comfortable really, really wide. But instead, I'm going to do almost like a kind of pseudo hybridization between sumo and conventional. I'm actually going to put my legs roughly this distance, which, to be honest, isn't really that far off conventional. It's a very narrow variation of sumo that I'm going for. The reason for that is the narrower you go, the less pressure it takes off your hips. You know, if you go wide, it's because you've got big hips, okay? And also you can use your legs that little bit more, okay? But if you go that little bit narrower, it throws it more onto your back. I want to use my big, strong back to lift the bar, okay? I have done sumo in the past and I have had my legs out wide, and I must admit I really struggle to engage those kind of muscles by going so wide. So I feel that going narrow is the way to go. So really, this is just theory, right? It's the actual practical side of it that matters. So who knows what it might be like when I get onto the bar. So the way to approach a deadlift bar, okay, is first of all, walk into the bar, moving your legs to where it feels comfortable. Again, this is all based upon your skeleton, your frame, your shape, your size, your muscularity, all these kind of, your flexibility, all these things come into consideration. Okay, for me, I feel most comfortable roughly around here. Okay, I put my feet out sideways because I'm doing the sumo. We want the knees, when we go down, to go like that. If I was facing forwards, as you see as I'm going down, the bar gets pushed away. So we need the feet pointing outwards. And also by doing this, we start to bring in the adductors, which are the muscles on the inside of the thigh. Okay, so we want them pointing out sideways, and we want a little bit of width to them so that these muscles get utilised as well as our quads. So the advantage of sumo is that you get to use a little bit more of your leg when you do it compared to conventional. Once you're here, okay, the main thing is to get your shins right up against the bar. Some people like to stay a little bit away, okay? Because as they go down, your shins will still, even when your feet are pointing outwards, will still approach the bar and will kind of then contact. The way I like to do it though is to get my legs right up against the bar, right from the word go, okay? That way when I go down, even though the bar may move forward a little bit, it's still, in my mind at least, as close as it possibly can be. It's closer than starting out a little bit further away. It means like there's no room for error. And remember, sumo has no room for error. So by being up against the bar right from the beginning, I can guarantee my legs are going to be right against the bar at the bottom, okay? Once I go into the bottom, I then need to kind of just edge things out, make sure I'm comfortable, move my feet, until everything feels nice and tight, okay? As we descend into that position, however, the best way to visualize it is that you're doing the perfect squat. So imagine there's a bar on your back and you're going down in that perfect A-frame that is required for a good and tidy squat. Once there, obviously grip the bar. And this is when, as I say, you move your feet and your hands, your back into the position that you want to be. Now, once you're in this position, to begin lifting, the last thing you want is kind of how I was there, okay, before you get into the squat and lifting position. You can see that my body weight is over the bar. That's not good because as well as lifting the bar, I also have to lift the weight of my upper body. As I say, I've got a big upper body, most of my weight is on my upper body, so we don't want that as an extra load. On top of that, it tends to put a lot of moment turning forces, rotational forces on the hip, and that's how you can bust your back and your sacroiliac joint. So as you go down, get into position, as we've just discussed, the next key thing is then just to lean back, okay? What that will do is it will throw your weight backwards off the bar, but also against the bar. Ultimately, if that bar wasn't there, and I was to lean back, as you can see, I'm falling back. And what we use is the bar as a counterweight. it stops us falling over. But as a result, that weight that was throwing me backwards is now helping me lift the bar up. Then, when we're in that position, we raise the hips slightly. Okay, we don't want to be down too low because then we're throwing it too much onto the legs and negating the back. So we want to bring the hips up a little bit so that the quads can be fully engaged, and then we begin the lift. It sounds more complicated than it is, but once you get into the habit, you'll be doing it without having to think. So this is why we're doing our I am today. I'm taking it back down to basics. I'm working it again and again and again, because sometimes you get into bad habits and you don't go through these processes. So I'm starting from the raw beginning, and I'm beginning again, and making sure everything's correct before we start adding weights. It's not going to be today, guys. If you're looking for big weights, it's not happening today, but hopefully you find it useful anyway. So I go down, I lean back, and there we go. At the top, you're nice and strong, and you bring it down under tension, okay? No dropping those bars, and no relaxing at the bottom either once it's relaxed there. You keep in position, and you do it again. There we go. And there we go, that's the technique for deadlift. That's how I think I'm going to go. And for me, that feels the most comfortable position that we can get to. I'm going to put just a couple more sets on there, guys, for you just to watch me, maybe try it from some different angles, so you can see what I'm doing. You can see the habit that I'm getting into of approaching the bar in the same way every time. One of the things I've learned over, how long has it been now? The last 18 years of weightlifting that I've been lifting, over the last 18 years, the one thing I've learned is you always treat every bar, every weight you lift, as if it's a 1 rep match. You treat it with the utmost respect. Because even though this is only 70 kilos, 70 kilos is basically the same weight as a small fridge. And so if you're moving house and you're moving a fridge, and you don't try to treat it lightly, do you? You prepare and you lift it properly. If you don't, you know you're going to hurt yourself. So even though this is a very easy warm-up weight, it's still a lot of weight for your bones. If you lift it incorrectly, it's going to hurt you. So you treat it as if there's 400 kilos on there. Even if it's an empty bar, you treat it the same way. And that way, you always respect the bar, and it will respect your back and not hurt you. Right, here's some extra sets. Alright guys, so there you go, just a few easy sets. I'm going to carry on with that, probably do about 5 to 10 more sets just to keep in the habit of doing those lifts perfectly every time. Every now and then on those reps, I did the odd little thing wrong. You can see it if you eagle-eyed. Maybe put it in the comments to say when and what I did wrong. Only little minor things, but as I say, when it comes to sumo, you have to be 100% perfect because you either get the lift or you don't. You can't muscle through with sumo. You have to get the technique 100% correct. So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the introduction really into this series. The series is going to go a long way, okay? We're going to be doing lots of different style of deadlifts, so from deficit training to partials, to obviously additional exercises such as band, lat pull downs, T-bar row, bent over rows. There's a whole lot of stuff we can do, okay? And of course, at the beginning of every video, I'll share a few more stretches with you, or a little bit more of my conditioning work, which mostly involves ab work, okay? The key to having a strong deadlift is to have like a band of iron around your belly. And you do that with, well, there's no shortcut to it, you gotta do hard work. Anyway, guys, so that's it for today. I'll see you soon. Hope you enjoyed it. Put anything you want in the comments regards, what views you like the most, whether you enjoyed the video, whether you think I should do this instead of that or whatever, and I'll hear from you. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll respond back if I can. Ta-ta, farewell for now.